Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Subnet Show. I am your host, Gabriel Cardona, and I am joined as always by my co-host, the man with the most cats in all of crypto, Connor Daly. What is up, my friend?
What's up, Gabriel? I got a good cat shirt today. my Murakami cat shirt. I love it.
Nice.
So we've had a cool few weeks. We've definitely seen welcome to all of our new listeners. Appreciate all the support you've been giving us on YouTube, on Twitter. We see you, we love you. We can't wait to make many more shows for you. But if you are new to the show, I just wanted to shout out at the top, this show is available on YouTube, but it's also available as a true audio only podcast on podcast services everywhere. And you can find us on Spotify, iTunes, the works. Also you can follow us on Twitter. You probably discovered the show through Twitter, but if you didn't, I'm Das_Connor on Twitter, DAS_CONNOR, and Gabriel is CG Cardona.
Correct.
There's also one more Twitter account you should follow. Our guest today, Gabriel, take it away.
Hey, yes, thank you. So, whenever we started the Subnet Show, we really had the idea that we wanted to meet people who are having an impact with blockchain technology. And, I myself am in the developer services space because I really believe that giving engineers the tools with which to create the next big game-changing dApp is the way that I myself can best contribute to really having a great impact with this technology that we're so fortunate to work with. And today's guest, I think, sits in that same kind of category. He is the founder of the Encode Club, which is a Web3 education program that helps developers get learn and then get jobs and get funding. That's a simplification. We're going to super deep dive because they do so much. But I want to welcome to the show Anthony Beaumont. How's it going?
Oh, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. I must ask, Connor, how many cats do you actually have? I don't know the answer to this question.
I have 4.
That's a lot of, as a single cat owner who is enough trouble to begin with. That's a lot of cats.
Did I pronounce the last name correct?
I'm a joint owner. So I have my fiance. We started out. I had 2 cats. She had 2 cats. Now we have 4 cats.
Of the cats. That's fantastic. Gabriel, you pronounce my name better than I've heard any American, or basically anyone that's not European pronounce my name. And even then, the Europeans struggle a lot. So thank you very much for that.
Yes. Welcome to the show. So as Connor mentioned, the last 2 shows that we've done, this is our 3rd show after the new year, 2022. The last 2 shows that we've done have done far better than any of the stuff we did in 2021. So it's clear that our episode on the Subnet show or on Subnets and then this interview with Goon really kicked us off to new levels. So I also wanted to just follow up on Connor's thought about welcoming all the new viewers, because I suspect a lot of people are going to be seeing this and this might be their 2nd or 3rd episode. So welcome to the journey. So in regards of you, Anthony, I'm sorry, I want to get a sense of your blockchain, your crypto journey and your crypto vision, and ultimately how you came to found Encode Club and where you guys are today. So why don't you kind of just start us back at your college? I know that you are a man of letters. You went to Eton as well as Oxford, folks. This is truly a man of letters. So walk us there. How did you go from there into discovering the blockchain stack?
It's funny because no one, what I love about blockchain, no one ever mentions that I went to
your credentials.
Yeah,
we're very fortunate. We're fortunate that we don't live in a world where you. I'm not a credentialist, probably because I don't have credentials, but I just know that, to me, it's all about continuous education, and then putting your knowledge into practice, and that's served me best. But of course, I respect credentials in a big way. So Eton and Oxford are no joke. That's for real. So, did you study computer science?
No. So the joke is, I don't think anything I've ever studied is in any way useful to what I do now. And if anything, it's quite the opposite.
Right.
No, started at Eton was just like miles. That was ages ago.
Sure.
That's just school. At university, I did politics, which basically I did a degree that is the degree all the politicians do, i.e. it teaches you to bullshit so well.
Is it like a law degree?
No, it was called politics, philosophy, economics. It's what Boris Johnson did. and the prime minister before that, David Cameron, did, and many prime ministers. And I think the reason it teaches you to bullshit is you have to do 2 essays a week, 2 big essays a week, and there's no way that anyone, particularly someone who's aged 19 to 21, can be bothered to do that. Sure. And so you write the most comprehensible, it makes sense, but waffle about bullshit topics that don't really have an answer to begin with. So I hope I'm not too much of a bullshitter, but it's certainly a skill that has armed me well in the blockchain space.
Yes.
I should think.
Got it. So when did you first find out about the blockchain? Were you into Bitcoin or Ethereum? Like, how long have you been on board?
So again, I have the worst story ever. I was not in any way an idealist. I graduated. I worked for a politician for like 6 months. I did not like it. And I wanted to join a VC because that's what someone who likes entrepreneurship age 21 wants to do. Sure. And it's obviously a typecast and inefficient path to being an entrepreneur. And I saw this thing called a VC that invested in blockchain. I knew zero, like cursory heard of Bitcoin, no nothing. And I joined this VC as a way too senior role for a 21-year-old. Wow. I probably should have seen the writing on the wall. It failed within 6 months. It like ran out of money. It was managing an ICO's money, which I did not realize at the time, and it failed within 6 months. And I was without a job. And this was start of 2018, and so basically I only knew down from that period. But luckily, one of the partners of the fund, one of the senior guys at the fund, a guy called Damir Bandalo, saw enough of me that he wanted to basically give me a job, and to his angel fund, which was a fund called Stake Zero Ventures, and which was amazing. Damir is since my co-founder. After that fund, we set up Encode. I did grow a passion for blockchain and recognized its coolness with a soberness of what it isn't, but also with a clarity about what it is, which is incredibly cool technology. After there's a bit in between, but a couple of years later, we started Encode together, and I'm grateful to him for everything that's happened to me in blockchain and continue to happen. He is fantastic.
Got it. So you obviously have an amazing team. So that's interesting. So you met your co-founder. What's his name again?
His name is Damir Bandalo.
Got it. You met Damad one more time. I'm sorry.
Damir.
Damir. Got it. Okay.
Damir. He's Croatian. Let's go with Damir.
Damir. So you met him, and he gave you a job on his angel fund, and from there, You guys ultimately created Encode. What was the catalyst where you were like, "We've got to create"? What did Encode start as? I know what it is today. It's a multifaceted jewel. It's a multi-headed beast.
Could you explain what Encode is today for viewers who don't know? Yeah,
that's a good idea. What is Encode?
So the overall pitch is a Web3 education community. The specifics of that is actually a talent creation machine through doing what I consider the highest quality educational programs in the space with the best partners. Avalanche being a core part of that, but not limited to Avalanche. You have Algorand, you have Polygon, you have Filecoin, you have Solana, you have Tezos, you have Polkadot, you have Graph. We pretty much work with everyone at this point.
Amazing.
But the core of it is delivering the best programs, which includes hackathons, coding bootcamps, accelerators, educational workshops at a scale that we think is unmatched in the blockchain space. And it was unmatched last year, and we're about to 10x it. So it's education to onboard people into blockchain, but it's not just about onboarding and educating. It's about where they go next, this crucial factor, which I define as broadly one of two ways. Either they're going to get a job or they're going to get funding. And we're very good at both and helping people achieve either of one of those things. So that is Encode in a nutshell.
Beautiful, man. So you're like the Y Combinator. You're like the Paul Graham of this space, basically.
I very much would never aspire to be anywhere near that good. But it's a little bit more nuanced than the YC because I say that because DeFi Alliance are very much who do amazing work, have gone down that path. It's more education focused. It's a step before. It's about arming people with the tools to go on, be fantastic developers in the space, because a simple problem, and we've done some amazing program with Avalanche over the last 12 months, a hackathon, an accelerator, a coding bootcamp that's going right now that had 1,000 people apply for 50 places that we're going to do more of. But the core is that if you're interested but talented, how do you go to that next step of actually being a developer on Avalanche? Or how do you get the next step of getting a job for a startup in the Avalanche community? How do you go that next step of getting funding? What is this? How do you cross this chasm? That is what Encode is there to solve. It's like you're talented, you're engaged, you want to be part of something, but like the thing that gets you to the next step is a high quality program. Our programs are 8 to 10 weeks long. Our programs are, if you do a coding bootcamp with us, 4 days a week with an auditor for 8 weeks. That is very different to I think anything else in the space. It's incomparable, and that's a commitment to quality while still achieving scale. But that commitment to quality is what we try and focus on in Encode in order to get the best results of. We've had over 50 companies come out of Encode that are collectively worth over 2 billion. And that figure is going to rise significantly because that includes a lot of companies who are at seed stage now. We've had countless people get jobs after doing an Encode hackathon or an Encode bootcamp or a workshop series with us. This is what we measure ourselves by. But to be honest, we're still a small fish. We're executors that aren't very good at shouting about ourselves, which is good. I'd rather be that way around. But we just want to take it to the next scale during 2022.
Yeah, I think it's an incredibly underserved market right now. Just the onboarding experience, onboarding developers into Web3. I mean, the whole Web3 community is still relatively small right now. We're probably only a few tens of thousands of people. Certainly not in the millions, and that's not just developers. That's users. VC. All those groups, investors. So how do we? It's such a key problem. Is how do you train people? Because it's an entirely new set of skills. People don't learn Solidity, in their schoolwork. So how do they come into this environment? And it's a problem that I care very much about as well. And this is why I write so much about this on Twitter too. I think the information asymmetry out there is really high. A lot of the documentation that's been written, if you just Google around, you might, the most popular Google search result might be from 2018. That's horribly outdated.
Exactly.
It's so hard to find resources that are high quality. And, there's starting to be several like coding boot camps, but I think Encode definitely, stands alone as kind of like one of the most accomplished and being able to achieve still a small scale, like relatively speaking.
Of course, yeah.
If you're not doing thousands of people at a time, like some of these MOOCs. But I think, I really like that idea of having that smaller focus and being, still getting to have that hands-on experience. Because all of your stuff is not like video lecture. I mean, I think or like pre-recorded.
It's
I think
always
you're
live.
Very much
it's always live.
Cohort-based,
live
right?
First. Yeah, it has to be live.
When did you guys found Encode?
We found Encode. So just to give you the backstory I didn't give. The reason we did Encode is we started doing in-person hackathons with universities in the UK. 3-month hackathons. Our first one, actually, we had really good sponsors. I don't know how we did it. Had like Gnosis and MakerDAO and Zilliqa. This is before Avalanche was founded, by the way. So we clearly kicked it up a notch. We did these 3-month hackathons with university students, and it went really well. This is still while I was working for the Angel Fund. Then we did another one, and we kind of stepped it up. We had Algorand, we had Tezos, we had Near. And at that point, the market was absolutely rock bottom. This is kind of going into end of 2019. And I was like, I love doing the hackathons. I love the effect it has. I love the fact we get to help people get into the space and achieve their dreams. I love seeing the directness of like output to what the input we put in, the effort we put in. And I was like, there is a community here, and education is so underserved in blockchain. And it's very much a game where everyone wins. It's strongly in our interest to help people learn. It's so they go on and do these amazingly valuable things like start a company or get a job. Or working with fantastic partners like Avalanche, who can then do more great programs with us that educate more people. It's incredibly self-fulfilling. So at the end of 2019, we were in the middle of our second hackathon, and we went, do you know what? We could take this to a completely different scale.
How big was your team right then in 2019?
2 people. It was 2 people, just me and my in fact, it was 2 people. I did a post on this last night. It was 2 people up until for the first 9 months. We did 4 programs that year, 2 hackathons, 2 accelerators. I think Avalanche I think that's when Avalanche we did our first one with you guys. Maybe
so you were 2 people when you did your first hackathon with us?
I'm trying to think. No, I think we were 4 by that point.
Amazing.
I think we
were 4. It really speaks to the power of, I call it the startup of one. So basically, I had a startup called Bitbox, and it was acquired by Bitcoin.com. And the entire process from me having the idea, funding it, building it, and acquired was just me. It was a single person journey. And at the time, I was like, everything, the economy of expression on these open source software stacks is so powerful that you can do a startup of one, man. I mean, like, so that's why that's cool to hear that you and your co-founder were able to do so much. It just really does speak to, if you have a couple competent people, you can really, really move mountains.
I know, but the funny thing is we're just onboarding our 20th person, and it's a completely different set of challenges, isn't it?
Yeah, see, us too. We're blowing up right now, no question about it. I think
huge.
It's huge. And so that presents a whole other kind of problem, right? So not only are we solving these technical problems at light speed, we're also solving social problems, because there's also just social dynamics of introducing a bunch of new people. Will we maintain our culture? Will we maintain our vision?
Of course.
Are we able to deliver on time? Are we going to have too many people? Is it going to slow us down? Like, how do you, this is just a thought I've often had, because I love startup culture, which is one of the reasons I vibe so much with what you're doing. I always wonder, like, how do you go from being a scrappy startup to being like, let's say Google, it's cliche Google, 30,000 people. How do you go from being a startup to being a Google and still maintain that culture or that idealism, or that some people might say Google doesn't have it, and I'm sure that's but some people say they do, right? I mean, still Google's a place people want to work. You know what I'm saying? Like, people, there's a subset of people who are very honored to work at Google, right? So that's what I always wonder, like, how can we grow Ava Labs to be the Google of this space? I always say if the next Google is going to emerge from our space, how do you emerge? How do you grow that big? So I guess you're experiencing it yourself, going from 2 to 20, huh?
Yeah, for me, it starts from the top. There is a culture that we want to win, and we will work harder. I think that's indicative of the fact that last year we did 23 programs, 15,000 people went to Encode events. We did it with an average size of 5 people. Nice. That is because I think we're the hardest workers, quite frankly. My co-founder and I sleep 3 hours a night. And I love working through it. Honestly, I don't know how to explain it. It's when you're, and I'm sure you guys,
when you love what you're doing, you're hungry.
Yeah. It's the energy. I spent pretty much every day, every moment from 9 a.m. till midnight on calls. And it's really easy to stay awake during calls because it's just so interesting and so engaging. I will work for midnight till kind of 4 or 5 a.m. on like the actual work that needs to get done. I do not expect that of my team, but it's a culture that says we will do whatever it takes to win, within reason, of course, within moral reason. But this is how we're going to do it. Are you here for the journey? And I think that culture, and we are completely remote, and we are remote. I mean, Avalanche also is broadly remote, but you have the same problem we have of you're on multiple continents, you're on multiple time zones. How do you maintain that culture? And it's broadly 2 things. It's we will work as hard as it takes to win, and you're going to be rewarded and be part of that journey with us. But along the way, we're still bloody nice people that look out for each other, and a culture of care. Quite frankly, if someone is busting their ass off to work, making sure they have the conditions that, like, is someone checking that they're actually getting enough sleep? Someone checking that they've actually, like, can I take something off your plate so you can go and like have a meal now or something? These 2 things, we're going to work hard and win, but there's a culture, everyone cares about each other, and we instill that from day one. There's like, we're going to check in on you. We're going to make sure that you're actually healthy, actually like got up, that your life is good, your family is good, you take time when you need. These 2 things, I think, it makes us as Encode unstoppable. And the day we lose those 2 things, working hard, but actually working hard to win, but actually caring, not caring for the lowest common denominator in the company, is the moment we probably stop scaling.
So then, having come from, just you and your co-founder to 20 people, how did it start? You guys have so many, it's a multifaceted jewel now. What was the very first facet? What was the journey?
The first facet is actually, the joke is we have revenue. It's like very few companies in crypto do. And we're just closing a fundraiser. I don't want to, I would love to talk about it, but I don't want to, I don't think I'm legally allowed to yet. But most companies in crypto fundraise without even having a penny of money come in. We've done everything by revenue, reinvesting, growing our reputation, growing our partner base. So
what was the first product you offered? What was the very first
hackathon? It was hackathons, co-sponsored hackathons. And then we went then we did that. We added exclusive accelerators. Wow. Went from that, and we added educational series. And then we went for exclusive hackathons. Like our latest with Avalanche, it's an exclusive long-term partnership to do exclusive stuff for that Avalanche ecosystem. Then latest thing is, which is our most popular product, is coding bootcamps. Come to us as a Web 2 developer. In 8 weeks, we will turn you into a top Web 3 developer and get you a job.
So good, Anthony. Damn,
it's
dude. So good.
a simple model that just requires execution. And to be honest, along the way, you might get this as well. It's very frustrating when you see people get quick wins. And it's great for them, but it's like you're grinding every day, going until 5 a.m., like really pushing. And then someone just goes ahead at you with one move. And I have to always tell ourselves that it's not about taking the little wins. It's about staying in the game long enough to get lucky. And I look where we are now, and it's a product of hard work. And more work going forward will get us to the next stage. It's nothing less. It's just execution.
I think the hardest thing for me is just seeing all these people who just make huge promises and they just get these deals and just like, we're going to do this like super pie in the sky thing. And then you just look at them like, you have not delivered a single thing ever. Like you were, and it's just like, and you signed that deal, like, man, you guys have really good business people. And it's just like, you hope that you have the product and then you can sell the product. But a lot of times it's you sell the dream and then you build the product, and then you got to make sure you dream big enough that so that you can still make the deals in the first place. One thing I want to kind of circle back to here is you talked a lot about, you said you want to win. What does that look like for you? What does winning mean?
Winning for us means being the biggest educational player in the space. And I say that because people will make other claims to being the biggest education player in the space, but you'll know it when you'll see it. I personally not convinced that like this MOOC style of like DAO education is not that the DAO bit's not important. It's MOOC style of like everyone wins. You do like an hour of coding, you get an FT, you pretend like the best coder in the world, works by any mean. It's a model that works for some people. I don't think it's the one that wins. Winning is being recognizably the biggest educational provider in the space. This is simple, and I'm data driven. We actually, as an aside, we track every single hacker that's ever done a hackathon in the last 2 years. I can say with an incredible amount of detail, pretty much any good developer that's got a hackathon, what they've done, what they won, where they built it on, so we can assess people coming through our programs. But we're data driven, and so this is, I will say, I want to have like 100,000 people go through Encode's programs this year. I want to, with our boot camps, which is an incredibly intense product, like you're with us for like 6 to 10 hours a week for 8 weeks. Like that's an incredibly large amount. I want to see 10,000 people go through those programs this year. We had 150 last year, so that's a big scale. If we're producing 10,000 top Web3 developers, because you gave me the numbers earlier, we know the numbers. There's not that many. We have the data. It's 10,000 people have done a hackathon in the last 2 years. So to producing another 10,000 is an incredibly huge increase. And of that, I want to make sure 50% to go and get placed on jobs. So when I say being the biggest, baddest, it's recognize me the biggest place for education and quantifiably educating people and then placing them. And then all their LinkedIn's will say, I was trained by Encode Club. If you get trained by Encode Club, it's like being trained by a top university for crypto.
Yeah, that's absolutely huge. So I know that there are, I think we had talked about earlier, there's a handful of services that you guys offer: Hack, Accelerator, Invest, Educate, AMAs, and Bootcamp. And I wanted to literally just touch at a high level on each of them. And I think that'd be super cool. So we've talked a little bit about Hack, but let's go in there a little bit deeper. It says helping students and hackers learn about blockchains and build projects. So I guess let's unpack that a bit more. Are they all remote? Are there any in person? You had mentioned exclusive and non-exclusive ones. What are some of the memories that jump out at you? What are some metrics that you can share? Let's just unpack that a bit more.
Absolutely. So for us, Hackathon is typically an online program that is 4 to 8 weeks long, where people, like a normal hackathon, build a challenge. If maybe people aren't familiar with the hackathon, they answer a coding challenge and are rewarded by prizes. In crypto, the hackathon is incredibly powerful. It's the original thing we use because there's so much funding. Developers are both users and the builders of applications to get users. So the price of a developer, although the value delivered by the developer to any chain, Avalanche in particular, is so huge. The hackathon, therefore, came to exist as a quick way to get these users/builders because you pay X amount to run a hackathon, you offer some prizes, let's say you get 100 new developers, maybe the outlay to a protocol was in total, let's say 100K. Well, that's still like, okay, paying 1,000 per developer, but like you might, well, if I pay 1,000 per developer, like chains are rich. Like this, you're getting good numbers very quickly, more than most other chains. So the hackathon emerges as this wonderful structure, unique to crypto, and so many startups have been formed out of them. We have a unique spin on hackathons, so they are completely online. The thing you get with an Encode event is the reason we can run so many at scale is we're very efficient about them. We know the process, but we don't compromise is the one-to-one calls we have with hackers. We will go up to like 4 times in a hackathon, having just one-to-one calls with people, helping them, trying to see if they're good, providing support, guiding them through that process, because this kind of human touch is what we've always tried to pride ourselves on Encode. Done some metrics. I think we did 9 different hackathons last year. That will go up to 20 plus this year. We have a couple of wonderful Avalanche ones in the works. We've done a wonderful one last year as well that you guys were part of, and some great projects kind of came from it. We're actually about to have our first unicorn come out of an Encode program. Well, I don't want to jinx it, but they're very close in market cap terms. And it was a winner of a hackathon in early 2021, and then a winner from summer 2020 is about to launch, and we think has a good crack at being unicorns, and they become the inspiration for the next generation. I talk about the Encode Mafia, and again, I say this with a pinch of salt because Encode still has, we're not very good marketers, we're great executors, we're not great marketers, we need to improve at that. But I like this concept of the Encode Mafia, that the Encode community of companies hire from our community, they help the next generation of companies coming through. It's so important to us for the culture. And
do they come back and give presentations, or do they do any mentorship or something? Yeah, it's great.
Constantly self-fulfilling, which is so important to us.
So you're obviously Encode works with a lot of different partners. Avalanche only one of many.
Yeah.
What has your experience been like working with all of the different layer ones and like the different VMs? And I guess as somebody who's learned a lot about this space, who's taught a lot about this space, what do you see as being kind of the big dividing lines? Or if somebody's coming in and they're saying, I don't know, which one should I learn about? How do you decide like where to push somebody? What are the kind of the fault lines where that make those decisions in your mind?
Yeah, you've hit the nail on the, well, you've touched at a very important point with Encode, which is we're multi-chain. We are agnostic, and also we work with a lot of non-Ethereum chains. I mean, let's say it out loud. Most communities in blockchain focus on Ethereum and that environment. And I love Ethereum. Who doesn't? But it's not obviously the winner, and it's not obviously what I think a complete education in blockchain is about. We like a good. I remember one of my teachers once said to me that the point of the teacher is not to tell you what they think. The point of the teacher, or what even the experts think, the point of the teacher is arm you with the tools to make that assessment for yourself. And we do exactly the same with Encode. So we actually don't tell anyone what to build on. That's the joke. Like if someone asked me, I would never answer this question. I just put great programs in front of them. And broadly, there are quite an eclectic mix of programs. And for instance, the partners we love working with, that we've worked with, have a track record with working with, and Avalanche being obviously one of them. So it's all about putting great programs in front of them and letting them pick. And they do vote with their feet. It's not we don't force them to do anything. We do the same marketing, ironically, for every program. Everything we do, it's the same process. It's really simple. We don't do a lot. We do a mailing list and a Twitter. So we do. People think it's more sophisticated than that. The community is strong enough at the moment. We don't need to do more, but we let them vote with their feet. They do. And I think this has to be the approach. And I love the mixing pot of different devs and trying different communities, because we know that someone that uses Ethereum can use Avalanche very easily. But then you see, what about the Polkadot guys coming into Avalanche? And what are the future collaborations that are going to come on the back of that? What is the piece of tooling in Algorand that when a bridge comes across is going to game change the Polygon community? I don't know. There's all of these.
So how does the hackathons work with regards to multi-chains then? Because you said exclusive and non-exclusive. I presume exclusive means only this tech stack. Non-exclusive is
correct.
Match,
right? When I refer to this kind of melting pot, I refer to the journey of the developer, not merging in particular hackathons, because as we know, you can't actually move from Polkadot to Avalanche or an Algorand right now, at least not in a.
That could be something somebody could build at a hackathon, though, a bridge.
I would love them to build that, and people have tried. But you're right to say at the moment you focus within a particular program on that protocol, and within that protocol, which you have to do because building is hard, development is hard. I more meant that if you are a 25-year-old developer who worked at JP Morgan, we have these types on the masses coming in, you get to try it all and see where you actually want to fit and see where you enjoy, rather than putting a particular blockchain down someone's throat and then expecting them to stay there because they'll leave or they won't enjoy it.
How do you decide which platforms that you want to invest your time into? Because obviously you can't support everyone, and you guys support a lot, and your quality is so good across the board. It doesn't seem like you sacrifice on any platform.
Yeah, I think there's also two factors. One, it's a conversation between, we talk to a lot of people, we don't say yes to everyone. In the early days, it probably wasn't as simple as that. It was actually, we had to go out and be like, we want this, but what can we actually get? Build our track record up, and then try partners and see. I mean, actually, our partnership with Avalanche started out as co-sponsoring a hackathon, then doing an accelerator, then doing a 6-month program together. Then now we're doing kind of physical events, which we'll talk about with the Andretti Partnership. It was building.
Go ahead and talk about it. You just, yeah. Do you want to talk about that now, or come back to it?
Devon would kill me not to. It is some people might know from the Subnet show, Avalanche have wonderfully sponsored the Andretti team in Formula E, which is the energy efficient, carbon neutral racing format, similar to Formula One. And this red car is going to be racing across the globe in the next year. And alongside that, Avalanche are using the opportunities to develop education on each city that the race goes to. So we are the education partner for that. And we will be doing on the ground in every city. So the first is Mexico in just under a month, coding bootcamp, developer education, and then kicking off coding bootcamps in every single one of those cities, which is, I think, a really nice way of tying. It's not our initiative, I must admit. This came from you guys, so well done, you guys, for the. I
actually didn't know about this. That actually sounds really cool. The Andretti really Partnership, the Andretti Partnership is something that we're super stoked about. Back when Gabriel and I were in Lisbon a few months ago for Avalanche House, we
wasn't Avalanche House amazing? It was just amazing. My God.
Were you there?
Oh, very much.
Did you make it? I didn't see you.
No, I loved it. It was fantastic. Also, Lisbon completely killed me.
I loved it. But unveiling the car, man, that was a cool moment. It's something that I'm super excited about racing. I used to be a big Formula One fan, but now I've abandoned it for a few years. But now I'm in. I'm going to be a Formula E fan.
Formula E is the future. The vibe I even got from the team there was that even internally, it feels like Formula E is the future. I think we can all agree that burning fossil fuels is probably not the long-term play, and the pace of change with these renewable energy systems is increasing so drastically that it's reasonable to think within 3 or 4 generations of this technology that the Formula E car is going to be the one with all the juice. It's basically just a supercomputer on wheels. You know what I'm saying? So it's like
100%.
Yeah, I think they're going to go really big with that. I think that's a long-term play that's going to great. I think the seed that we planted now with this partnership is going to grow into something huge in the future, because I feel like that both projects, Andretti, Formula E, and Avalanche, are going big. You know what I'm saying? And we planted the seed when we were still quite small in Lisbon. That was pretty rad. So, okay, there's still a few different other things I want to make sure we're able to cover. So,
go for it.
Accelerator, it says a 10-week program helping the smartest students, researchers, and hackers become founders. So that sounds really cool. Let's talk about the accelerator. What is it? How does it start? How do I get in? Give me the details.
Yeah, the accelerator was meant to solve a very simple problem, which is when you finish a hackathon, where do you go next? You're not ready to quit your job. You can't really get funding. Maybe you want a prize, but where do you go next? And so many projects just die at this stage unnecessarily. So the accelerator is a 10-week, add-on. We take projects from hackathon stage and into startup stage. We do it through basically a curriculum they go through. We only take 12 teams max. They go through a curriculum of things like rapid prototyping, fundraising, marketing, design, one-to-one calls with us every single week. And we make it our goal to get them funding at the end, which is we had a lovely one with Avalanche in the summer. That went fantastically well. We'll probably only see the results of that in a year's time, because it's not the first project people do. It can be the second, even the third project where you see the big wins. I know, for instance, one project's already pivoted, but is raising a massive round. So I still consider that a success of the accelerator.
Yeah. Pivot is part of the journey. Pivot is part of the journey. That's the entrepreneurial journey.
100%.
Doesn't necessarily start with the first idea. Absolutely, 100%. Is it mandatory that a person comes from the hackathon? Like nobody's just jumping in?
No, you can come from anywhere. So you actually can come from absolutely anywhere. It's just a nice filter through.
Sure. Got it. And so it's 10 weeks. What does the curriculum look like? You mentioned weekly calls, or you kind of gave a high level, but
weekly workshop. So that works. So we start off as a rapid prototyping, things like marketing, things like design, things like. Okay. And then weekly, I would say a fairly standard curriculum, but do
you connect to students? Do you leverage like the power of the tribe, or is it are they able to reach out to each other?
Oh, the most important thing is their camaraderie. The fact they're doing it together on one chain. I hate to use this term because it's a cliche, but the accelerator does try and be YC style. It's you're doing this together, and I get
a YC vibe, but I happen to like YC, so to me that's not like a dirty word or anything.
I love YC, but this I tell you how we're not better, and no one's better. But I mean, what is a facet of this that's fantastic is they're doing it on a new chain together. You get such a sense of unity when you're building on Avalanche together. You're solving the same problems. Sure. If you're in YC, even if you're all building EdTech platforms, they're going to be so diverse. If you are together building on Avalanche, and this is what I actually say to our partners all the time, look, even if these weren't great startups, you now have and realistically, we're early on every chain. Like Avalanche is still early in its journey. Those 24 people that have now put collectively, by the time you've gone through a whole 6 months of Encode programs, you've done our educational series, you've done a hackathon, done an accelerator, you're 30, 40 weeks into a protocol with 24 people who've probably been 30 or 40 weeks in. If you're getting this accelerator, you're a bloody top dev. You don't realize how, I say this to people all the time, you don't realize how valuable or how early. And if you project this in 2 years, if your money's your goal, you'll be rich. But the success you're going to have, because a developer who is that deep into the Avalanche ecosystem now is so ahead of the game. It's a joke. This is what I love. And when the people realize it, it's quite nice as well.
There can't really be any imposter syndrome in crypto because there hasn't been anybody that's been developing for 5 years. There's nobody that's been doing it for 20 years. There are no experts. I say to people all the time, I was like, look, when you're 6 months in, you will have probably, even if you say this space is 5 years old, which we know it's not, you've got 10%. If you're after 6 months, you have 10% of all the possible experience. If you assume it's 3 years, and once you've got 1 year, you have 33% of all the possible experience. On something like Avalanche, after you've been there a year, you have such a significant percentage of all the experience you could possibly have. Clearly, it's not linear. Experience does not equal ability, but that absolutely resonates with me. I've also remembered Connor very much gave a workshop in our accelerator in the summer. Yeah.
I think that was week 1, I'm tempted to say. And a very good one it was.
Oh, thank you. That was one of my first talks.
Sorry, go ahead, Connor. Go ahead.
I was gonna say that was just one of the first talks I did externally pre-Subnet show. It was very fun.
Connor doing more talks. I think he's a very charismatic person, and I've seen a bunch of his internal presentations, and he's damn good.
More
Encode Club. More Encode Club.
Exactly.
You might know, dude. Maybe Anthony might know somebody. He might be able to put in a good word. Okay, so in regards to funding, so obviously, if the intention is we want to get you funding in the end, is that must be baked into the conversation at the beginning. So how do you approach that? How do you know what they want? How do you bake in terms? Do you guys get part of the piece of the pie? What are the details?
So we're actually very nice. So we don't bake in any piece of the pie at the start. Encode actually has a very small investment component. It's actually just a small syndicate that we have invested in great stuff. We have a very good investor network. Dammer and I have been angels for a while. And people are kind of at this point used to recognizing stuff coming out of Encode. We've had the likes of Euler Finance, which Paradigm led. We've had Reflexer Labs, which also Paradigm led. We've had Zero Xmons, which never raised, but is doing unbelievably well as an OpenSea competitor. There's many with Fusium coming out now, which is looks like the new Sorare. We've had countless. We basically say this to people: if we won't back you, we will introduce you to the people that will back you. We'll introduce you to them first. But good people have never had a problem raising money, especially in crypto. We don't take we don't, as a condition, take stakes in protocols whatsoever. We do in very, very limited cases. If we have gone above and beyond, I'll talk about Footium in a minute because they're one of my favorites. We will take some small advisor share. And this is because I'm a massive football fan. And when they said they were doing a football game, football as in soccer, the proper football. And they said they were doing a football game, I was like, I have to fucking do this. Pardon my French. I have to bloody do this. So yeah, that one was a bit special and close to my heart.
I'm still mad about the NFL playoffs, so the other football doesn't exist right now.
I honestly, I know nothing about NFL, but I'm annoyed at my team Arsenal for being a little bit rubbish lately. But
do you have a regular set of investors that you work with, or do you try and match the entrepreneur with a unique investor?
I think it's close to say we have a regular set that are more familiar with our kind of programs. But actually, to be honest, the first thing, if you're going through one of our accelerators or hackathon, the thing I prioritize is getting funding from the protocol itself. This is the most important thing, having their backing. Make sure they get a grant from Avalanche. I know Avalanche also have Blizzard, which is a brilliant initiative, and make sure they get funding there. I know, for instance, a great example is the Floats Capital guys doing amazing stuff. The energy is amazing. They're all South African guys. I think Avalanche is backing them. So that's a perfect example. The guys born and bred in Encode, fantastic guys. And then the best guys find funding for themselves. But if we can help along the way, make some good introductions, then that makes the world a little better place.
Got it.
That sounded so corny as well, that last comment. Just good for them and good for us.
Yeah, and so that's the next point then is invest. And maybe I don't want to beat the point too hard. So if we've already talked about it, we can go on, but at least cover it. So is invest. We back our best hackers, students, and researchers.
Exactly.
So I guess do you picture yourself? You said you've been an angel a while. So do you see yourself more on the angel end, or do you do B and C and D rounds? Like, do you have a cap at this?
No. So Encode is a very particular beast right now. So 99% of everything we do is Encode Club, the business, and actually most of the revenue there is through our great partnerships and through our recruitment. Recruitment's the biggest growing thing. It's will probably be 90% of our revenue by in a couple of months, to be honest. It's obviously we can't place people fast enough based on the talent we produce. We do have this thing called Encode Invest, which is actually a syndicate. We don't take any fees. It's just a collection of angels that want to back stuff coming out of Encode, so that we can, because we want to, and people want to. People recognize they want access to Encode stuff early.
How do you curate that list?
We have, as I say, very data driven. So we have data on everyone going through our programs. We have brilliant program managers who are talent spotting constantly for us. And we just try and honestly, I will say this, we are terrible at scouting for our own programs. We do more programs than we actually have capacity to.
No, I mean, how do you curate the list of the angels? So you said
always friends. It's just friends, people we get talking to. It's simple as that. I wish it was more sophisticated than that, but working with friends is always the best way to go.
Yeah, it's a good heuristic of these people. Okay, got it. So then do you have any investments you've made that you're able to talk about that you're proud of, or is everything we wouldn't know about them anyway, or is there anything you can
so a few that we are very proud of. Footium I've already talked about. They've just closed their seed. We did their pre-seed. We're very proud of them.
Who is it?
It's called Footium, so like Ethereum, but Footium.
Okay.
I'll put it in chat, even though that means nothing for YouTube. We're very proud of the Revert Finance guys, again, from our hackathon. Mario's based in Mexico, terrific hacker, used to work at Bitso, and their LP Analytics. They're going to do fantastic things. It's a very popular product. It's a product people are used to using and constantly using. So we're very, very, very happy with them.
Did they come from the hackathon?
They did indeed.
Nice,
very pleased with them.
So this is like this could be the canonical example of an Encode success, really.
Yeah, all of these. I mean, if we back them from the fund, they've been through our programs. They've Encode born and bred. They've been spoken to us 10, 15, 20 times on calls. So cool. we try and bring that through that journey. One last example to share is Gearbox Protocol, which this project specifically didn't go through, but the hacker behind it, Mikhail Lazarev, who's amazing, had been through constantly of our programs, and actually he was doing this in our hackathon and Gearbox, doing something else in our hackathon, Gearbox in another hackathon at the same time, because he's that brilliant. yeah, it's just a brilliant protocol, to be honest. They're going to do fantastic things. Brilliant set of investors.
Very cool. Very, very cool. Okay, next we have, we've done Hack, Accelerate, and Invest. Now we have Educate, a curriculum and event series teaching students about blockchain through the lens of leading platforms in the space. So this probably falls into the category of what myself and Connor have done, which is kind of
exactly, yes.
So yeah.
And what you're doing in a couple of weeks with us is exactly one of these things.
Yeah. And so how do you source the material? How do you sort of how do you organize this? It seems like you have a people problem, in the sense that interacting with your platform a lot is interfacing with people. Myself even, figuring out when I'm going to give a presentation, how I'm going to give a presentation. So it seems to me like the challenge you must surely face is simply sourcing high quality people that you can trust with your interface.
Yeah, I mean, we've never really had a hiring problem, simply because we produce talent, so we could just pick off the best talent for ourselves.
Sure.
It's like a really nice way. Pretty much everyone in Encode has come through Encode programs, which is just the best way, because they get what we're trying to do. Gotcha. Content creation is always a hard one. It's always a conversation with the protocol. By this point with Avalanche, we kind of know what needs to be done very well. Worked with you guys for a long time, but obviously if it's a new protocol, for instance, we've I can't quite talk about it, but a new and emerging layer 2 that is quite advanced. We spend a lot of time thinking, okay, how are we going to teach this? You're right. So the educational series, our workshop series, you come for free. I mean, everything we do at Encode is free. Come online and we'll teach you in general terms for both a very technical and a less technical audience about this thing. And we'll sit down with the protocol and say, right, we're thinking of doing this. Is that good? Do you agree? Is that the narrative you want to tell? And then either we'll get some, as you are experiencing, sometimes we'll get, if there's an expert, Gabriel, you're an expert. If there's an expert who we think is like their voice is what we actually how we want this content to be delivered, we'll bring them in. A lot of times we'll do it ourselves and we'll teach it our way. And we'll just deliver that or prepare that content in-house.
Yeah, so how do you approach curriculum? Do you, when you're putting together your plan for, I guess, which workshops to deliver, do you kind of think about it like, here's everything a person needs to know to be productive in this space? Or do you kind of look at what are the hard problems right now? How do we kind of give high leverage advice to solve these problems? Or how do you kind of build that curriculum?
The education series specifically tries to be light touch and to give people, so I'll give you an example. If we were doing an 8-event series in Avalanche tomorrow, we kind of are at the moment, but if we are, I would say, right, we're starting off with an introduction to blockchain before we even talk about Avalanche. Because this is the thing, this is the first reason why people are coming in. They're like, what is this blockchain thing? The second one will be an introduction to Avalanche. Okay, we taught you about this first thing. Now, why is this relevant to Avalanche? What about Avalanche is specific to solving this problem that blockchain tries to solve? Then we go, right, okay, you've learned that. Now let's start talking about the technical stuff. How does Avalanche actually work? How would you build your first application? Then we'll take a step back and we'll go, okay, now we've given you a little about the technical side. What can you build? What has been built? What are some examples of products? And then we'll take another step back and go, okay, how would you like to be involved? Then we might come back and do another technical workshop. So we're very much trying to fit a broad audience, and it's about giving people that particularly with the education series. Our boot camps are very different, particularly the education series. It's about giving them that taste, that excitement, so that they can come into a hackathon. And that's where we want people to start going deep. And we do more education in the hackathon. We don't just turn education off. We still do workshops, still do more stuff. We're just building depth. But we want to use that education series, the big open, these are our almost MOOC type, as the funnel builder. So we can then bring you into the intense stuff, the hackathons, an accelerator, our coding boot camps, what we touched slightly on at the start. Then where we can deliver the home run education that builds the proper firm basis.
So I think this might touch on some of your boot camps and some of your other educational materials, not just your kind of education component. But how do you break down the lessons in curriculum? Is it just entirely broken down by platform, or do you kind of break it down further by topic? Because I think one thing that I've realized is developers have tended to specialize around the platforms, but I think one thing that's really underserved is Once you get beyond that base level, like I've done the intro Solidity tutorial, like where do you go next?
Yeah.
And what I encourage people to do is to specialize in some subset of blockchain work. Like, DeFi would be one, NFTs would be another, governance. There's a lot of different specialties. And I think, are you serving that market yet? Or do you think about that problem differently?
I think more on the general, I want to learn a broad set of skills. I think it's a really interesting one, and we're going to start doing more thematic specifics. I mean, actually, we won't. I think actually giving people a broad basis in, for instance, we've got this Avalanche Bootcamp now, which is basically you're learning Solidity and learning about it specifically for Avalanche. And we're teaching very general skills, and the specialism kind of will come next. It's like where you want to go with your journey. Actually, the best thing you can do is give people the tools to do it for themselves, rather than force feeding them too much. So it's a balance. I think you've hit a really interesting one, which is you can always do more. There's always another thing. Like I want to do a zero knowledge, like coding bootcamp, for instance. That is very specific. I want to do a Degen specific one. I want to do a DAO specific one. But it might come. But I think right now, at least with most ecosystems, we're at the stage where the key bit is how do we get developers to Avalanche? Like how do we get them? Like where's the process? Like you're a top Web 2 developer. How do you go to being able to say, I can build something on Avalanche. I can go and get a job. I can go and get funding on Avalanche. This is the key deliverable. I really hope it's when we've done our job well that they actually fill in most of the gaps on their own, because then that skill to actually do the work for yourself, be so self-motivated, and know how to find the resources you need because they are out there. Actually is the thing that will drive them to be an excellent developer. I'll give you a really good example. Connor, you came up in conversation last week with a guy called Marlo. And Marlo is a top developer. It's very clear. And he's going through our Avalanche Bootcamp at the moment. Maybe the Avalanche, maybe he's going through another one, but I think he's going through the Avalanche one. It's one of our bootcamps. We have too many at the moment. And he could be happily a senior developer at a Web 2 company for the rest of his life and earn a shit ton of money. But he's going, no, I recognize the future here. I want to come to Avalanche. Like, I want to go there. What do I need to do? And we can teach him, and we have taught him. He's done 60 hours with us. The thing that's going to make him a top Avalanche developer is that commitment and that drive to go and keep learning more, and to be able to start to recognize I need to start again with being a blockchain developer so I can get to my end goal. We're just a small part of that journey. We're just the 60-hour part. Like everything else really is him, and the fact he's talking to you. Like, how did he get to talking to you? Like, what was the connection? He probably did something there that is the actual drive. So long answer.
You're having an intense impact, man. Education is powerful, right? Everybody knows, the knowledge is power, and wisdom is greater than silver and gold. Like all the cliches, it's true. And again, going back to the original theme of me saying, I don't have a degree, right? My entire everything I've learned has been on the job and learning through courses like what you guys are offering. And so, I just want to express like an acknowledgement of you guys are having a huge impact. You're putting out cutting edge, information on how to work with these amazing, just game changing systems long before they can find their way into formalized college curriculum, right? It takes several years for this stuff to get baked into some type of college course. But, you guys have got the latest and greatest the day it comes out. And so people who want to work on the very cutting edge are getting their knowledge through systems like yours.
Well, I mean, the same goes for you guys. I mean, the number of people who mention like how inspired they were from you guys and your commitment to not just building stuff, but teaching, particularly you, Gabriel. I remember your first workshops with us in the hackathon, how passionate you were about this topic, deeply passionate about this topic. And that is, I can say I can have hands-on data for that, which is people really like you guys. And it's because you're clearly so passionate about sharing your knowledge and bringing people to the space, which quite frankly, you don't need to be. You don't need to actually have that commitment. You could quite happily be very successful guys just building stuff for yourself, for your world. But to share it with the rest of the world, bring more people in, is a brilliant commitment. So credit to you guys massively.
I think that's one of the best parts of Web3 is that when you when you join crypto or whatever, most of the time you're not just kind of siloing yourself off and working in a company in an office with a couple people, and then that's your whole world. Most of the time, you are on Twitter, you are in the Discord, you are talking to people constantly, and the community is a huge part of it. Being a part of the developer community is absolutely a huge part of it. And
what
like
do
you said,
that is, I'm trying to figure out. I've not been able to work out whether it's just like younger people fulfilling their kind of quote unquote dreams earlier and therefore more prepared to give back. I haven't really got a firm thesis, and if you guys have one of why.
I mean, I think it's the only way to build right now, because like when you literally, if you go and Google this stuff, like you can't find any good information.
That's true. Yeah.
Like I have learned more about Solidity development on Twitter than I have from Googling, because half the documents are from 2017, from an old version of Ethereum using old outdated packages. You don't there's no, the first entries on Google do not tell you the best software packages to use. They do not point you to the up-to-date documentation. If you do not know the key terms, if you know to look for Ethers.js version 5, whatever, like you can get the right thing. But if you're just looking for how to get into crypto, it's polluted with old stuff, with low quality stuff. But if you actually are involved in the communities, I think you just see that this is where the knowledge share is. Everybody's having the same experience. Like you said earlier, if you started on Avalanche a year ago, you're like, oh, there's no bridge. Okay, now there's a bridge. It's not very good. Okay, there's no Gnosis safe. And everybody has these same problems that just gradually get solved. Exactly. And everybody that came in after that doesn't know that problem existed, because the world was just has always been perfect. But I think it's just there's a mutual bonding over that, and that's just how most of the people come into the space. So if you came into the space that way, I think it's having the role models that's how you're supposed to behave. Yeah. That's how
that actually touches perfect on the last point of your all's platform. So I guess we can kind of group Bootcamp with what we just talked about.
Yeah, of course, definitely.
Yeah, and now the final one is AMAs. So, we host AMA sessions with leading entrepreneurs and investors in the blockchain space, bringing them directly to our studio audience to ask questions. And this is just so incredibly valuable. Think about all throughout history, if you could literally just ask the great leaders and the great thinkers of all throughout time, ask them anything, so to speak, right? And we live in that time where everybody is just a keyboard stroke away. And so I find AMAs to be incredibly powerful, just to speak about what we were just talking about, bringing knowledge to people long before it has the chance to be formalized. So I don't know if you want to touch on AMAs or if anything comes to mind.
Well, you know who my favorite AMA was?
Good.
Yeah. So that was
he's a champion. He's a legend. Yeah, he's absolutely. It's such an honor to work with him, dude. It's crazy.
We have the YouTube metrics. We can confirm. Good interview.
He is he's a legend, dude. Yeah, it's crazy.
No,
it's such an honor to work with him.
That gets me with him. It's just humble. Doesn't have to be. You can't. It's hard to be sometimes. And he has every reason not to be humble. He could just be like a big success. Success has come to him, but it's very clear. He's been generous with his time. He actually came to our accelerator, took time out of his schedule. He doesn't have to just talk to 20 random developers. Sure. And listen to them, gave them feedback, gave them praise. It's fantastic. The MAs actually is less and less a huge part. It's actually, we're trying to bring it back again. We've just confirmed our next kind of lineup, but it is exactly what you said. It's bringing top speakers to people to ask questions directly and live. It's always, there's no filter. It's live. We had CZ, someone asked CZ, how much was he worth in what currencies in a lot of detail. He actually answered that it is on our transcript and on YouTube. But so we transcribe it all up as well. We want to make sure that's in there for perpetuity.
Sure.
It's the most inefficient thing we do is transcribing a 1 hour interview.
Sure.
That's some funny stories linked to us messing that up. It's just another facet of bringing good, high quality content and live stuff that people can engage in, and hopefully they go on to better things.
All right, couple questions to maybe kind of start closing that out. What is your bottleneck right now? What is the hardest part about your job? What is preventing you from growing more, from onboarding more students?
Right now it's opportunity. There's so much money on the floor. Honestly, recruitment we have so much talent and so much demand for talent, and it's obviously it's used from hiring and putting in process. You can't just hire 20 people overnight. You need to put in process, you need to onboard people. Right now, this very second is we onboarded 5 people in a week, and I want to give them the right cultural upbringing in the company and teach them, and time is scarce. So it's money's on the floor, but just being patient enough to grind rather than pick up the easy money to put in place processes to actually scale properly. Usual startup stuff.
Yeah. Then the next thing I wanted to ask is, you kind of talked about some of the courses that you're interested in doing, but I guess what do you see as missing in the space right now? Where is the dark matter that needs to be filled in to bring in even more people? Is it just more boot camps? Is it just Encode getting bigger? Or are there any like kind of fundamental paradigm shifts that you think we're still waiting for before the floodgates can open?
I would always say it's Encode getting bigger, but Encode's not going to be we're not going to be this universal answer. Obviously, we're not, like, obviously. It's difficult. I think if we knew that, I mean, it feels to me like a lot of small things compounding. As you said, like, I can't curse. I was looking the other night for our internal team, what other people would have done about just like basic introductions to blockchain. And we teach it ourselves. I just wanted to read like what people do. It was a mess. I couldn't find a single resource that I would have any confidence in online to give someone and be like, this would get you up to any competent level. It was ridiculous. So I think we're just still so early and things are so immature. And like, as you said with Avalanche, like, this is a great ecosystem. Stuff's getting done. We know basic tooling doesn't exist in some areas, like, and that it's coming in. Like, we know this is the case. And while this is the case, people's journey is necessarily going to be hard. But I'm a football fan, so maybe we can end on a football analogy. A soccer, again, proper football, is that there's a school of thought where South American footballers are the best. And it's not because they get educated on pitches that are perfectly flat with perfect grass, with perfect eating conditions. It's because they play in like football, like five-a-side football pitches that are made of rock, and the ball isn't inflated properly, and you're playing with kids 10 years older than you, and like the lights go off, and like you're in a cage. It's hard, like it's hard, and that hardness builds resilience, and it builds a skill set for coping with problems. So perhaps we're trying to improve things. Perhaps the difficulty is itself the reason why, Gabriel, you're here talking about education and bringing people in. Why, Connor, you're here talking about education and bringing people in. It is that your journey necessarily is making it easier for other people. So whilst we can make it perfectly and the perfect flat grass pitch, maybe it's not the worst thing in the world that it's a bit more granular and a bit more like, it's a little bit hard for people, because that will build resilient developer education for the future.
No, that's an amazing note to end on. But just one last thing. I'm a student. I just listened to all this. I'm really excited to get started. Where do I go to participate in all this?
Very good. Yeah, simple one. So everything in Encode is program led. So go to our website. You'll see the first thing is like 8 to 10 different programs on different protocols happening right now. Click on one, there'll be education, there'll be boot camps, there'll be hackathons. If you're completely new, go to one of our education series. If you want to hack, there's 4 hackathons coming up in the next month. If you have a startup, join one of our accelerators. Boot camps, they're not on the website. There's about to be a ton announced, but we're just putting the finishing touches on. Bottleneck is great teachers, by the way. That was the one I missed. Is that you've got great devs, but you guys again are different. You like teaching. I love this about you. But not all people want to be great teachers. So finding these types is hard. And we put a lot of work into finding the best. We just found someone amazing who we're so happy with. But go to the website. It's all there. Jump into a program. And the best thing is, like, within mere days, if not hours of you joining a program, someone will be there to have a call with you immediately and take you through that whole journey. So we look forward to welcoming you into Encode.
Awesome. You want to share your Twitter account?
Yes.
Yes, very much. Very much. Sorry, go ahead, Connor.
No, I was asking you the same thing. What's your Twitter?
I'm going to put it in the chat here.
You want to spell it? Do you want to just spell it out?
It's Encode Club. So ENCODE CLUB, all one word, Encode Club. As you, I would hope, expect it to be spelled.
How about your? Do you want to share your personal or no?
I'll share my personal. So that is.
You don't have to, but if you want to.
Oh, absolutely! I'd love to. Anthony, ANT with the ANTH0NY at Beaumont's my surname BEAUMONT. So follow me for terrible takes and the occasional football related tweet.
We'll make sure to include all those in the description.
Yeah.
You're a legend, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you. I mean, the joke is, like, to get to spend time an hour with you guys is like my pleasure. Like, so this is like doing me a huge favor. Like, especially both of you together when we're in one room. So this has been the highlight of my Friday morning.
Awesome. Okay, Connor, any last minute thoughts?
No, yeah, this was awesome. Thank you so much. Absolute pleasure. Hopefully we'll see you in Barcelona or sometime soon.
Can't wait for Barcelona.
Follow Connor, DAS_Connor, CONNOR, correct?
Yep, that's right. Dask Connor.
And then myself, I'm CG Cardona, CGCARDONA. So thank you as always. If you made it this far, you are an absolute champion. I just want to say thank you again to Anthony. And then as always, we will be back next week with more amazing content. It's going to be an amazing 2022 on the Avalanche Network. So as always, we say from Snowflake to Avalanche and through consensus to the stars. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Cheers.